Hey Sugar Shack family, welcome to We Could Just Make That. This little segment might be a little bit out of sequence because as Fitz and I were just playing around doing a video about rehydrating eggs and bean soup, we realized that some of you may have not seen a freeze dryer again. So there's gonna be a little bit of an echo and a different feel to this part of the video because we're in the barn, but we just wanted to show the freeze dryer. So when we talk about having loaded the shelves up with certain foods, freeze drying them, and then rehydrating them, we're talking about this machine. This is quite a machine. It has shelves. This is the extra large machine. No, it's not. This is the large machine. It has shelves. So you fill these trays up with whatever you want to whatever you want to freeze dry. Once it's full, you turn it on. Takes quite a while, sometimes 24-ish or more hours, to completely freeze dry whatever it is that you put in here. What that does is remove all of the water, the liquids from the food so that it is prepared for long-term storage. One of the benefits of the freeze dryer is that unlike the dehydrator, it maintains a lot of the nutritional value of the food and also the integrity of the food. So if you put a strawberry in, it'll come out looking like a strawberry versus like a mashed strawberry or something that you might not easily recognize. So this is the freeze dryer. In future episodes, we'll talk more about the freeze dryer because here at the Sugar Shack farm, we're all about homemade foods and preservation and mental health. So we are trying to plan a business around helping people to have the foods, healthy foods that they need stored in their house in the same breath that we need. But to add on to the soup rehydration and the egg rehydration that you will see, we also we also put some bananas and strawberries into the freeze dryer. This is how they came out. So this is a freeze-dried banana. So good, I'm telling you. This is, we did this for my grandbabies so that when they want a snack, they can just come in here and reach in and get strawberries and bananas. When I tell you that these are so flavorful, these bananas and strawberries are so flavorful, and it's just a healthy snack. So they're essentially eating something that they think is maybe fruit snack-ish, candy-ish, but it's just the actual fruit that was freeze-dried. So more to come, but this is the freeze dryer. This piece of equipment is expensive. This is the pump to it. It's something that you might want to consider having if you can. If you can't buy it on your own, it's something that we should be buying in groups in your city. If there are people who want to freeze dry with you, this is a great investment when we talk about food storage. So thank you for listening to this part. Stay tuned in this video for the eggs and the beans.
Fitz Darbone coming at you from the Sugar Shack. What I got with me this morning.
Peace, y'all. This is part of the We Can Just Make That series. Yesterday, we froze dried. Can you say froze dried? We used a freeze dryer to dry some eggs from our chickens out in the garden. And this morning, we are going to reconstitute them so that Fitz, who cannot live without having eggs in the morning, can have his daily dose. So we're going to reconstitute the eggs and then he's going to scramble them and make his breakfast. So these eggs are raw. We took raw eggs and we scrambled them, put a little bit of salt in, and then used a freeze dryer to freeze dry them. We can talk more about the freeze dryer later. We also did the same thing with bean soup. I prepared bean soup and then we made one tray of bean soup in the freeze dryer. We'll also reconstitute that. But let's start with Fitz's eggs. Okay, so we had little bit short of 3 tablespoons of eggs that we put into here. Remember, they were already scrambled raw and then we put them in the freeze dryer. We're gonna now add a little bit under 3 tablespoons of water. We might have to add a little bit more because there's some chunks in there. Yeah, the chunks might take a little bit more. Want me to put more?
Yeah. All right.
All right. So these eggs are super colorful. They're very bright because our chickens laid them. So these aren't grocery store eggs where the chickens been locked into a little corner more.
That's right. These are
More?
these are high protein eggs that we fed some good old watermelon and some good high protein stuff to come out with this apricot looking color egg, not some bright yellow egg that you normally get in the grocery store with them old caged up chickens.
Okay.
All right.
You ready?
So
we're gonna move over to the stove.
that's right. We're gonna move over to the stove there.
And here we are at the stove now, about to make these eggs. Want to point out that we're melting a little butter. This is the butter that we made on our butter episode. If you haven't seen that yet, it's coming out soon. But this is fresh butter made at the Sugar Shack. And then Fitz is holding the eggs that have been rehydrated. We ended up adding 3 more tablespoons. It seemed like 3 tablespoons equaled about 1 egg or a little bit more. So we did that twice. So there's about 6 tablespoons of egg in there, and it was rehydrated. That's the word you like better?
Rehydrated.
Rehydrated. So when you freeze dry food, you take all the liquid out of it. And when you want to cook it, that's for long-term storage, right? It has no fluid in it. When you want to cook it, you have to put that liquid back in the food. And so what we did when we added the water to those freeze-dried eggs was we rehydrated it or reconstituted it.
So you see, I'm adding a little onions and some bell peppers and some green onions to my eggs. I'm not gonna just eat no regular eggs. Got to have it spiced up a little bit.
With that homemade Sugar Shack butter?
That homemade Sugar Shack butter. And then next time we're gonna have some homemade Sugar Shack cheese.
Yeah.
But for right now, we got our dehydrated, reconstituted, rehydrated.
So we didn't dehydrate, because dehydrate is different than freeze dry.
Okay, explain to me that.
So dehydrating uses heat. And so you do take the fluids out, but it also removes a lot of the nutrients. Freeze drying doesn't. You maintain about 90%, if not more, of the nutrients when you freeze dry.
Gonna add us a little fresh ground pepper. And some pink salt. This was
That's real salt.
Real salt.
So it's sea salt, but it's produced by a company out of Utah. It's mined in America, and it's a really high quality salt. I talked a little bit about it in our butter video.
So you can see the mixture of the texture, I would say, is pretty darn good there. And so I'm gonna add in a little cheese, you know, because I like a little cheese on my egg sandwich, or as us country people say, egg sandwich. So here you go.
I'm gonna put a little bit in a bowl so that we can re-show what this looks like before. That's pretty good, Fitz. So this morning, we just wanted to rehydrate these eggs for ourselves to see how they would look. And so we'd have more information about measurements, how much water to add, things like that. So here's what the finished product looks like. Here's the cooked product, and here's what it started out as here. Let me move that out the way. I want to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I showed you that picture. You just got to see a picture of the cooked egg versus the freeze-dried egg. The freeze-dried egg, if we had not cooked it and we stored it in this Mylar bag properly with an oxygen absorber sealed properly, it could last up to 25 years. So this is so important, right? Because in times of disaster, you want to eat the same food that you've been eating. So by putting up eggs, you can still wake up in the morning and with 3 tablespoons of water and 3 tablespoons of this egg mixture, have a great tasting and looking egg breakfast like Fitz here.
All right, that's enough of this. Let me show you what's going on here. We're gonna have us yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is it good?
So I said, boom. That's pretty good.
Okay, good.
You know that?
Good smacking.
No, I ain't smacking. I'm eating.
Okay.
So, it works out pretty good, you know, with them freeze-dried eggs.
Freeze-dried eggs.
Freeze-dried eggs. Okay. That's gonna make me a good sandwich with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We're going to next. We're going to do the bean soup. Rehydration.
Rehydration.
Yes. Okay, Sugar Shack family, I'm back. We're about to talk about the bean soup. We used the freeze dryer, and as we were freeze drying eggs, we did a tray of bean soup. Bean soup is one of my favorite foods, as it is probably for many of you. I lost Fitz because he decided to go eat his eggs and leave the show for this part of the episode. But we have bean soup here, and I want to show it to you. This is 2/3 cup of dehydrated bean soup. If you have ever eaten my bean soup, then you know I put all kinds of things in here. There's onions and garlics and bell pepper and good seasonings, and it is all in here freeze-dried into this package. We are now going to add some water, some hot water to this. It's gonna be hot water versus room temperature water like the eggs had, and see how much it takes to reconstitute this back or rehydrate this back into bean soup that we would eat at dinner. So I've been adding water, and I'm at 5 tablespoons of hot water, and not only does this look good, but oh my goodness, it is smelling good. Now, this is a staple for the families in my community. Let's bring the camera back up. Now, remember, I told you, had we left this in the package as a powder, this could potentially live for 25 years. We could eat this at any period of time. This is long-term food storage we're talking about. Could be short-term food storage, because you might not have anything to cook for a day, and then you remember that you had some freeze-dried bean soup that you stored up, and you just need to add some tablespoons of water. And here's the thing, you just had a healthy meal, right? You had no time, but you prepared in advance, you stored your bean soup, you added your hot water, and now you have a very healthy meal for dinner. So freeze dryers, again, preserve a lot of the nutrients. It's a little bit different than dehydrating. The technology is freezing versus heating, and so they both work. They both do different things or the same thing well, depending on what your goal is. But now we have a product that we have dinner, and let me taste it. This tastes exactly how it tasted before I put it in the freeze dryer. Fitz, are you around? Do you want to taste this bean soup? Anyway. Again, Fitz left me when he started eating the eggs that we were making. So what I want to tell you before we end this video, and again, this was just a quick kind of look at how you rehydrate foods that come out of the freeze dryer. The Sugar Shack will now be investing in freeze-dried products. Oh, you're back. You made it back.
Happy plate with my eggs.
So we will be selling these products that you should, they'll all be very good quality, very healthy. Oh, good. You're going to try that. Food inside. But this is for strictly designed. Well, I don't want to say that. This is designed for preparation so that you can have long-term food storage. But it's also designed so that in last minute moments when you are fighting the urge to go to fast food because you're out of time and you didn't have anything to cook and you don't want to feed your babies fast food, you don't want to feed them garbage, you go to your cabinet and you pick out a bag of freeze-dried food. This recipe happens to be bean soup. We'll be having eggs, we'll be having milk, we'll be having other things that are freeze-dried that you could just eat. So stay tuned for that. Also, if you have the money, freeze dryers are kind of expensive. So those one of those things that you have to think about before you purchase, or maybe you can purchase in groups. If you do purchase a freeze dryer, you can do this on your own. But if you don't, then let's do it together.
And everybody can make me some more food.
Thank you for joining the Sugar Shack for this episode of We Could Just Make That. Hey Sugar Shack family, this segment of the video, which is going to now be at the beginning, might be out of sequence because Fitz insisted that I come out to the barn and I talk a little bit about the freeze dryer. So we started out just wanting to show everyone how to rehydrate the eggs that we freeze dry. We kind of got ahead of ourselves because we didn't show a picture of the freeze dryer. So with that being said, welcome to the Sugar Shack Farms episode of We Can Just Make That. After this segment of the video, you will see us rehydrate